Viktor Emil Frankl was born on March 26, 1905, in Vienna, the second of three children of Gabriel Frankl, a civil servant, and Else Lyon. The Vienna he was born into was one of the most intellectually fervent cities in the world, the Vienna of Freud, of Mahler, of Klimt, of Wittgenstein, of the great collision between tradition and modernity that was reshaping European consciousness. But for a boy growing up in a Jewish middle-class family in the second district of Vienna, the ferment of the age arrived through more personal channels. And the question that would define his life and work arrived early, remarkably early. Frankl recalled being perhaps 4 or 5 years old when he first became aware of death, not as an abstraction but as a personal reality that would, one day, claim him. He lay awake in bed, he later wrote, thinking, "Someday I will not be here. And then, what is the point? If I am going to die anyway, what is the point of doing anything at all?" This is, of course, the question that philosophy has grappled with throughout human history. But for a small child to arrive at it spontaneously, and to take it seriously rather than being reassured away from it, tells us something about the quality of Frankl's mind from the very beginning. He was not a person who could be easily satisfied with comfortable answers. He needed to understand. As an adolescent, this philosophical instinct combined with a growing interest in psychology. He was drawn to Freud, like many young Viennese intellectuals of the time, and the Freudian correspondence in his teenage years was not a performance of sophistication but a genuine intellectual engagement. He read widely, thought hard, and began to push against the limits of the frameworks he encountered. The pushback started early. Even as a teenager, Frankl was uncomfortable with what he saw as Freud's tendency to reduce the higher to the lower, to explain love in terms of libido, conscience in terms of the superego, meaning in terms of wish fulfillment. These reductions seemed to him to miss something essential. Not because they were wrong about the mechanisms, but because they were wrong about what the mechanisms served. He also had early, formative experiences of what it felt like to live for something. He described, in various interviews, the particular quality of engagement he experienced when he was absorbed in a question that genuinely mattered to him, the sense of being pulled forward by something outside himself, of time disappearing, of a kind of aliveness that had nothing to do with pleasure in the ordinary sense. These experiences of meaning-directedness were, in retrospect, the phenomenological data from which logotherapy was built. His secondary school years brought him into contact with Alfred Adler, whose individual psychology offered a different framework than Freud's, one that emphasized striving for significance and the influence of social community. Frankl found Adler's model more humanistic than Freud's, but ultimately insufficient for similar reasons. The striving for power and superiority seemed, again, to miss the deepest level. By the time Frankl entered medical school, he had already developed the core insight that would define his life's work, that the deepest human motivation is the will to meaning, and that its frustration, rather than the frustration of libido or the striving for power, is the root of what he would eventually call neurogenic neurosis. The clinical observations of his youth, the philosophical questioning of his adolescence, and the early dissatisfaction with reductive models had converged into a position. What is remarkable about tracing these roots is that the great theory did not emerge from catastrophe. The catastrophe of the Holocaust would test the theory in the most extreme possible way and ultimately demonstrate its depth. But the theory itself was already present in the questioning of a small boy lying awake in Vienna wondering why any of it mattered. Subscribe to the Psychology of Viktor Frankl to explore more of his timeless ideas.